And yes, away from that, I have picked about 3, 4, 5 stories there on matters politics. They will be forming the basis of our conversation. I was just telling one of my guests this morning that apparently the politicians have taken us to a point where there's nothing else we can discuss. And even if we have to discuss something else, it will just be briefly, and then we get into the conversation of politics. And that's, I mean, what they technically say, politics runs the world, runs every activity in a nation, and therefore we can't run away from discussing politics. So we'll be looking at all this as we look at the matrix of 2022. We are looking at a scenario where we'll have a different conversation when it comes to 2022. So it is really important that we have these politicians realigning themselves. And as they realign themselves, remember, we as the people are also coined into that. But what's important is that aspect day, or that, crucial day where we'll go and cast the vote. Just whom will you vote? Will be based on what? Political affiliation, based on, tribe, based on ideologies, or what? A majority of them are now selling their agendas to us. What will culminate to being, their manifestos, what will culminate to being their ideologies. And we've seen recently that those who plan to have the interest of being there, that is as the top leaders in 2022, are coming up with economic models that will be friendly towards making changes to the economy. As we all agree, the economy is not in the best of shape today, but what's important is that we need to know who is this one leader who will come in with a model that will be friendly in terms of addressing the problems that we have. Ndaragwa Member of Parliament, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, is with us this morning, dressed in a very interesting regalia, probably different from what we are used to, but we're happy to have him this morning after a long time. Good to have you again, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you so much, Rida. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for your invite.
Karibu sana, karibu sana. And yes, the DG of Kisii County is also with us, and good to have you, Mheshimiwa, after quite a while again. Honorable Joash Maangi.
Thanks, Linda. I'm glad to be here.
Karibu sana, karibu sana. Honorable Farah Maalim, I've had you. I can tell that you are already on standby, joining us virtually this morning. Good morning. He is the former Speaker of, ex-Speaker of the National Assembly, and also ahead in Wiper Party. We'd love to know actually what is happening with Wiper Party today. I'm sure he will be rushing towards getting to know what then will be happening down there in terms of realignments. Good to have you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's been a while. You've been well?
Yes, indeed, yes.
All right. You are telling us what Wiper plans for the day?
Well, we're having a NEC meeting, and the NEC meeting will have a raft of issues to be discussed. I don't want to preempt anything. Let's discuss. It's going to be like we always do. It's going to be a very engaging NEC meeting. So you will know a resolution before the end of the day.
Jubilee has not had these meetings for the longest of time, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni. Probably that's what informs the troubles that are within the Jubilee Party. What are the plans?
Jubilee was formed by the Uhuru and Ruto blocks that came, or camps, because one may be a block, the other one is just a smaller group that came on board. And it was formed to deliver Uhuru Ruto to power 2017, which it did successfully, and has run the affairs of this country for the last 4 years. If you look at Jubilee also as part of TNA, or at TNA reincarnated, then you are looking at a period of about 9 years. And I think what has not happened to us or to those who are still actively involved in the affairs of Jubilee is to appreciate that once you have done what members associated you with, you have to justify your ability to do one more thing. Either you justify or you reblood yourself in a manner that you actually look ready to do the other thing. And the other thing is, of course, what is ahead of us, 2022. What I think is a little confusing is the belief of those who are still in charge of Jubilee and those of us who are in Jubilee as to what do we want to do with Jubilee 2022. And I can tell you that it's not going to be any easier, because one, it is going to be some very difficult power struggle
Right.
within the party. I didn't go to Meru, but I heard a few of my colleagues saying that we want to go and eject Murade and Tuju. If you have been involved in the management of a political party, you would know that those are statements easier said than done.
Oh, yeah.
There's no politicians we are going to tell walk out, and he walks out. And in any case, the law does also does not provide for you to tell others to walk out.
Right.
There's a process. And that process is normally very, very tedious, and especially if you are running for a political office, and also if you really want to be involved in the management of the country within another 12 months. So there are some things you do not want to be engaged in.
Okay.
I say this just as an advice to my colleagues that yes, we have Jubilee, it's our party, we are happy to be in it. We will continue defending it. But we have to quickly think through and
Right.
see whether it is a party that we want to use, not to use, whether it is the engagement we want going forward,
Right.
and whether the people, because we in the leadership may desire to be there, but is that the desire of the people we want to lead? And I can tell you that
Right.
that is one. But allow me to add something else.
I
okay,
think it's only
sorry
fair that
for
we
that.
allow
All right,
Hesh
my
come
apologies.
in. And you
My
know,
apologies.
he actually had you speak of, these others that came in, and he smiled, because when you're speaking about that, you're talking about his party. I'd want to believe ODM party, at least from what we know, he is in ODM party so far, though he's also trying to try other waters. It appears it's murky on this other end. It's more or less like a bit of confusion for Jubilee Party. There is a story on the papers that has been captured today. Again, they are rethinking a scenario where they're going to sweet talk the Tanga side, to probably come back to where it is that they were in terms of forming Jubilee afresh. But then the question is that the DP himself declared that Jubilee is dead.
Politics is a very interesting game. You have said correctly that I'm in ODM. Yes, and I'm in ODM. And ODM today is probably the largest organized party in this country. The other part that is becoming strong is UDA. UDA is becoming very rapid and strong. And when the DP says that Jubilee is dead, but Kioni, my brother Kioni, has said very clearly that Jubilee has outlived its usefulness.
Okay.
It was specifically formed to win 2017. And it came from two major parties, two major blocks. But I think it's only fair also to mention that there were smaller, 11 other smaller parties, including 4 people from Kisii.
And UDF, which I belonged to.
And UDF.
So I'm not oblivious to that fact.
Yes.
Okay.
And the fact is that Jubilee has outlived its usefulness. So why would you begrudge Ruto for saying exactly what Kioni said? Kioni said he just outlived its usefulness.
Yes.
No.
That's exactly
but you
what
see,
Those are not my words.
and I mean, if that is...
You're not going to get away with it because I'm here.
Honorable Farah Maalim, are you there? I'm coming back to you. I'm coming back to you.
Yes, yes.
Are you
Yes,
there?
I'm
My
I will
question
tell
is
you
this,
know what to do.
and I know Honorable Kioni will counter this, but somehow there's
Yes.
some reality in that statement that a majority of parties, will outlive their usefulness as, once they get into that aspect of a general election, and whatever it is that they were formed for is done. The next point, we are thinking of forming other coalitions and other arrangements and other parties. Does it then whitewash the gains that we've made in terms of democracy, in terms of gaining, in terms of having democratic gains? Because reality is that we want parties that are formidable, parties that are strong, parties that are like the likes of NC in South Africa, the likes of course, what we have in Tanzania, what we have in Zimbabwe, ZANU-PF. I know we have our very own KANU that seems not to be doing so well.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, parties are supposed to have an ideological base, and parties are supposed to be formidable and stay there for the longest time. I mean, ANC is over 100 years old. And then you come to us here, parties have ceased to have any meaning other than accessing power. When you look at everybody who's right now in the power echelons in the country, each one of them has at least gone to 3 or 4 parties. In the case of Maangi talks about ODM being a formidable thing. ODM, you know, how many parties has Raila belonged to from the time he got into this after the so-called the multi-party era was reinstated in this country in 1992. Well, he was in one time we were all together in Ford. Then we got to Ford Kenya. He got to NDP. He merged NDP with KANU and became KANU. Then went to LDP and God knows how many, and until where we are, NAC and everything. So basically, parties have absolutely no meaning in our country, and that's the saddest part of our democracy. But coming to this thing again, when somebody tells you a party is dead, there's no party that's dead, because the party has no significance beyond the proponents of that party. Okay. If Uhuru now decides to and his group decide to forget about Jubilee and form something else, you see all that semblance of following and commitment and the rest of it goes with them. If Raila decides to put something else, there's that die-hard following that will go with him wherever he goes. And the thing that you need to understand, and I want to say this, and I've said this many times before, the elections or the by-elections that are taking place right now where Jubilee is performing poorly is not an approval of Ruto, and it's not a disapproval of Uhuru or the people with him in Jubilee right now. It is purely a revolt by the mountain region to say that don't push somebody down our throat. So essentially they're saying, you're going to bring us Raila, then we will do what is basically your wildest nightmare. We'll bring in Ruto.
All right.
I remember when Jubilee TNA was coming with Uhuru as the presidential candidate. Uhuru had gone into a pact with Mudavadi, and then the following morning I went to Parliament myself, and Kioni remembers this. I saw all those diehard supporters of Uhuru saying, if he does not run for the presidency, we will vote for Raila. You see, that's basically, I mean, as bad as it was. And that's how he came back and said that I was initially influenced by demons or Shaitani, whatever it is, and became the candidate again. So right now, what is happening is that for the longest time, the elite in the mountain region have been demonizing Jaramogi and his son, and that has set in a hard way. Now, when you suddenly come and have a handshake and say that you look like you want to bring that person for the presidency of this country, and only 4 years ago, you've been calling him all the names in the world, under the sun, then it becomes a problem. You can't get that out of the psyche of the people. So they say, if we would rather go for this person who has always been seen as somebody who's going to take away our property, our farms, and everything else. Come in also. And we'll go to whoever else you don't like Ruto, that's the person we'll go to. So that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Interestingly, you realize that Ruto seems to be getting so much love from the mountain. We're coming back to you, Honorable Joash Maangi, but that should be after this short break, because then reality is that everyone is eager to know what is the next step. With him, he only spoke for less than 2 minutes. After this break, we're coming back with Well, still with me, former Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Farah Maalim, who's joining us virtually, and in studio, Honorable Joash Maangi, Deputy Governor of Kisii County, and of course, the key leader of Ndaragwa constituency is here with us, also Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, as we discuss the politics of the day. Coming back to you, Honorable Joash Maangi, and still to wind up on your line of thought and generally the conversation that has been there, it is quite unfortunate that we as a people are not getting what it is that we're supposed to get in terms of development in totality in the name of, or there is someone who came into the party and now this person has disrupted all activities of the party, and therefore we cannot realize the Big Four agenda. We cannot get what it is that we want in terms of fighting corruption. And time is ticking. President Uhuru Kenyatta is out of the stage by the time is 2022.
Linda, you know, when a party comes to power, you have a 5-year plan, yes, a 5-year manifesto. When Jubilee came to power in 2013, they had a 5-year manifesto, which ended in 2017. And then they came up with another manifesto, which was premised on the 4 agenda. Now, according to Ruto, and I tend to agree with him, the handshake came and disrupted this four pillars.
The big four agenda,
the
right?
big four agenda. And you would notice that since the handshake, the country has been spending a lot of time discussing PBI, discussing the handshake, instead of doing development. Granted that COVID also came and caused some interventions, but really we have spent too much time discussing the handshake, discussing PBI. So I want to believe that Ruto is right when he says that the handshake in a way interfered with the big four agenda.
Okay.
And when we talk about parties, you see, it's on record that the Secretary General of Jubilee, Honorable
Tuju. Raphael Tuju.
Tuju at some point declared, and Murathe at some time declared Ruto persona non grata in Jubilee offices. You gotta give these guys some credit. If you have been told you're a persona non grata, then what could you be doing there? So he had to move out and associate himself.
People would
with
expect you
UDA.
to move out in totality, resign.
You can't move out in totality because the way the Constitution of Kenya and the election rules are, if you move out, you will cause a new election. And if you look at the presidential election, even gubernatorial elections, they were never meant to be by-elections. The way it is structured is that if a president resigns or dies or vacates office for any reason, then the deputy president becomes president and appoints another deputy. The same thing to governors. If a governor vacates, the deputy takes over and appoints a deputy. So the way the philosophy of our electoral system was such that we did not want to have by-elections in presidential and gubernatorial. So when you ask Ruto to resign and therefore allow Uhuru to become another, that you're being unfair to Ruto, because then he cannot run. If he resigns, you see, you cannot run as a deputy president alone.
Are you not then being unfair to Wanjiko or to the common Mwananchi? Because what is the point of having a deputy that really is not doing much, is as good as out of the party, is probably getting money for, being paid for?
That is why you cannot blame him alone. You must blame the president as well.
Okay.
Because you must ask yourself, the president came to power together with this deputy as a team. A leader is not supposed to destroy. A leader is supposed to build. If I was the president today, I would summon Ruto, tell him, my deputy, sit down, let us talk.
All right.
We were elected together to serve these people, the people of Kenya. We must serve them. These people deserve services. And if you listen to Ruto, that's what he has been saying. He has been saying, tell me what President Uhuru, what assignment Uhuru has given me and I didn't do. Tell me where I've disobeyed the president. So in a way, Ruto is right.
Is that what Jubilee is contemplating, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, to get back to bringing the Tanga side back into the House?
I don't know whether there is anybody else in the House.
There's nobody who's calling the other.
That's why I'm telling you that
Yes.
if you look at us, and I can see this as a key community leader, Kikuyu community leader, I can tell you that we know what to do. I see my colleague is slowly going towards UDA. If he's already not three-quarter in UDA.
He's as good as there.
The statements that he has issued today and the ones he issued the last time I was here, if I can add them together, I can tell you where he is. And it's not a crime. This is a time of looking at it and seeing what is it that your background is talking about.
Yeah.
But for us in Mount Kenya, because I think it is important for us to address it that way, it has dominated the political news for the last 4 years.
Yes.
So we cannot shy away from it. There are a couple of things that I want to say. One is that Uhuru will tell Mount Kenya people where not to go. And he has.
Okay.
But he will not make the mistake of telling them where to go.
So are you telling of Right Honorable Raila Odinga?
It has never been the character of Mount Kenya leaders, of Kikuyu community leaders.
Let's get this right. He's told the people not to go where?
I have gone, let me say it over again, and I have to say so many things, so don't get worried about just that.
Okay.
I just want you to know that he will tell us not to go, and he has.
Where? Where is this that you're saying
And
he's told you not to go?
people have understood, but he will not tell us where to go.
Make us understand where is this that
he
he's
will
told you
leave
not
us
to
to
go.
choose between Raila, Musalia, Kalonzo, Wetangula, and others who will emerge. This has been the case in our history. So when I tell you we know what to do, don't take that lightly.
Is that so?
For those of us from our region who still think Uhuru is going to tell us where to go, they almost want him to tell us where to go because the immediate outcome is to refuse to go where you have been told to go. That's the political reality.
And definitely the president does not want to suffer that embarrassment.
He is not that naive.
Yes.
Okay.
And he has done his bit. Those of us who are nudging him, tell us where to go, you are wasting your time. And I'm talking to my colleagues. You are wasting your time. He has told us where not to go.
Where is this?
Which is the case with every father. Don't touch that. Don't go there. So you keep going, don't go there.
Honorable Farah Maalim, he doesn't want to tell us this. Honorable Farah Maalim has been here long enough.
But I haven't said anything.
Okay.
Farah had the whole day.
Now you have to balance time.
Let me also say this.
All right.
The other thing that Farah said, and you can watch the space, we will tell you we know what to do. The other thing that Farah said is that the by-elections do not amount to much, which is the case. And I want to tell you that Farah Maalim is perhaps one of the best deputy speakers we have had, and the standards that he set in Parliament, 10th Parliament, are going to take a while before they are broken by anybody. And I respect him a lot, and I listen to him a lot. And I totally agree. The parties have lost the ideological base, what we were campaigning for 10th Parliament, and if you want to move forward, you can't remain where you are. Kenyans want to keep changing parties, what has not been done in that democracy. So I want to say this also. Yes, by-elections don't quite mean a lot. But there is one one is that if you want to talk about UDA and by-elections, out of the 9 by-elections that have been held in this country, they have only won 3.
Right.
Only 1 parliamentary seat.
But you also need to acknowledge that they've not been here long.
Well, 4 years, they have been campaigning alone for 4 years. Alone.
We're talking
for
about
4
UDA.
Years. Yes, UDA have been campaigning alone for 4 years.
It only became
and
UDA
they messed our Mount Kenya region by just talking to people about politics and nothing about development. But in 3 weeks, we went into Kiaba, talked to people a different language. A few members of parliament went there. And we didn't have the provincial administration ahead of us or the executive ahead of us like it has been done before. We went, talked to the people. And I don't come to the from Kiaba. But they listened.
The numbers
and they kept telling us, Sasa, tunawasikia. We know what we told them. We know what the kind of discussions we had. In 3 weeks, we took away 50% from UDA.
Okay.
3 weeks. What they had planted for 4 years, we uprooted in 3 weeks.
Honorable Farah Maalim.
If we do that for a year, where will UDA be? I want to tell you this.
Yes.
I heard you saying that there is a lot of liking for William Ruto in Mount Kenya.
Don't you think so?
He is admired. In fact, he is adored. That doesn't mean he will be voted for. And I want to tell you, we know what to do. If you are looking for votes to the presidency, that region knows what to do.
Okay, Farah Maalim, let's get the view of Honorable Farah Maalim.
Before I tell you, before I also tell you that...
You refuse to tell us who it is that the president has said you do not go that direction. Honorable Farah Maalim, you've been here long enough. You can almost tell. What is this direction that the president has stopped the Mount Kenya region from going? And moving forward, do you agree with what it is that Kioni speaks of? That indeed, they will surprise us?
Kioni is one of the few members of parliament, along with Kimunya, who come from the mountain region, who have come back. Usually the mountain region, once they get rid of you, you go for good. Basically, he's a serious opinion leader, along with the likes of Mauka Maore and Kimunya. So I do understand what he's saying, and frankly, he's spot on that. Look, if you have, we don't have suicide in our culture. Suicides are not in our culture. But when your son feels that you are not listening to him, he will tell you, I will go and you will never see me again. In other communities in Kenya, they will say, Kama mzee nitajua. So essentially what you are seeing right now in terms of voting in the manner in which the Central Kenya or Mountain region is voting is that you don't want to listen to us, Uhuru, we're going to commit suicide. I mean, that's exactly what it is.
Okay.
And I'm saying this thing, it might be taken as a joke and people might laugh and say it's not as bad as that. No,
It is.
I don't think Ruto is going to make any impact in Mountain region, and you see it for yourself.
Right Honorable Raila Odinga?
Right Honorable Raila Odinga is going to have a zero impact in Mountain region. You see, both of them have been vilified by this is a very hardworking, productive community, and there's one area in which if they're given the threat that you're going to come and take away from them, they will fight you to the end.
Is it not going to destabilize the vote then?
Can I just finish?
Mm-hmm.
The impression that's built, the impression that has been built from Jaramogi's time was that these are not people who work hard. These are people who have got a very big appetite for consumption, put on the best dresses and put on the biggest cars. And I'm talking about Luo Nyanza. Mm-hmm. And when they come to power, they will take away from you your hard working fruits. Now, a similar thing with a dimension also of violence was what was portrayed for William Samoei Ruto when we were together in ODM in the post-election violence of 2007-2008. So it doesn't matter how much good he's a very generous guy. He's made a lot of money, and I want to presume that the bulk of it is through what you call unfair means. And he has literally whitewashed the mountain region with money. But you can only hire a mountain person. You cannot buy a mountain person. Let me tell you one thing. The same thing also for Raila. If you try to push Raila down their throat, that's the end of it. But and one thing you have to understand, in 1997 when Raila stood for elections, he was way below, down there. He had less than 700,000 votes. When his father stood for elections as a doyen of opposition politics in this country against Moi in 1992, he was number 4. Number 1 was Moi. Kamatiba, Kibaki, he was number 4, even less than Kibaki. Mm-hmm. That tells you that, and then come 2007, I want to believe that Raila won against Kibaki. Come 2013, he won against Uhuru. I still believe that he even might have won the one of 2017. You know why? The relevance of the Odinga family or the Luo candidature in that place was as long as the candidate against them is from the mountain region, and then the rest of the country will rally around him because they see that as the only hope that can put a gap or a stop to the domination by the mountain region. Mm-hmm. You understand my point? Mm-hmm. You take away that, you take away a Kikuyu candidate from the mountain region against Raila, he's going to end up being number 3 or number 4. You will see it. Now the same thing also for what do you call the bulk of the Luo what do you call the mountain region votes. The mountain region votes can be marshaled to say, we will protect your wealth. We will protect your cows and your farms and your hard-earned property and wealth. This is a community that's very hardworking and is extremely wealthy.
Given
and that's
got
the envy of many Kenyans. Hang on a minute, let me finish. That's got the envy of many Kenyans. Now, both of them fall within that. Ruto is known to be wealthy, but not through fair means. Raila is known to be wealthy, and the community also is seen as a community that will basically prey on their hard work. So when you take away a Kikuyu candidate against Raila is going to be number 4. When you take away, when Ruto comes in there, you can rest assured none of the mountain region will vote for them. This contest is between, as he puts it, Kalonzo, Mudavadi, and God knows anybody else who comes into this election, what they call race right now, who is not one of the two. None of them is going to get the bulk of the votes of the mountain region, and this is going to be the determining what you call block for the next election. You can rest assured about that.
Well, there appears to be unreadiness in the mountain region. Do you suppose then this could have triggered this conversation of, people saying that we could extend the election come 2022?
Linda, I find Maalim's argument very interesting. It's a good debate.
Yeah.
But I think anyone in Kenya will tell you that the next president of this country is either Raila Odinga or William Ruto. So when he says it's a wiper...
Definitely not without the Mount Kenyan vote.
I'm coming there.
Yeah.
So when he says that the next president will look for either Mudavadi or Kalonzo, that is because that everybody leader of wiper. But in reality, anybody will tell you Kalonzo has no chance, zero chances of become president of this country. But not in 2022. Now, he goes ahead and says that Ruto has zero chances of getting votes in Mount Kenya. But Kioni, who is a key leader for Mount Kenya, a community leader for Mount Kenya, has confirmed, and I quote him, that they went to Kiambaa and they brought back 50%. From who? From UDA. Who is UDA? Ruto. So he's admitting that as we speak today, Ruto has the Kikuyu vote. He has the mountain vote. That's what they are to struggle. No, just a minute. That's why they are to struggle to get it back. They are to fight for 3 weeks to get 50% from where it had gone.
All right.
So where is it now? With Ruto.
Okay.
No, Maangi, I agree with you. That I should have added that if it's going to be a race between Ruto and Raila, you can rest assured. I don't like Ruto myself. I'll never vote for him. But against Raila, Ruto is going to win 10 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
Well, then I...
Now your debate is taken, so I'd rather just...
No, let's allow him to. Let's allow him to respond.
Let me finish. He said, let me say one question you asked, with due respect,
right,
about postponement of elections. The African Court of Justice gave a ruling that if a country feels that it's not prepared for this election, it can postpone the elections.
Right.
Now, Professor Juang, retired Supreme Court judge, when he was a professor of law in the university, he taught me law at the university, he came up with a very interesting philosophy called extrajuridical powers. Now, extrajuridical powers is a philosophy that he came up with, and his argument was that a president is not a mere mortal. A president is more like is the personification of state, and therefore his wishes must be given extra consideration.
Okay.
And this philosophy tended to allow where a president proposes or brings up a policy initiative that will otherwise lack legitimacy, it will be given legitimacy by the fact that he is the president. Now that is exactly what we are seeing here in the African Court of Justice. Presidents in Africa who are interested in extending their time spoke to their people, because the African Court of Justice is not a court of law, it's a court of justice. And you know, a court of law looks at law strictly, but a court of justice looks at other extraneous circumstances.
Right.
So now they have looked at other extraneous circumstances, and they are saying, if you feel that you are not prepared, the pandemic hit you so hard, and therefore you don't want to subject your people to an election, you can postpone. But just like all international treaties, every country must have municipal laws that accommodate those treaties. That ruling is nothing until it is domesticated in our Kenyan system. Okay. And I consider that a political ruling. I don't have a lot of respect for the African Court of Justice, because it's a political court. And just like ICC, if you look at ICC, America arrests people from Africa, they take them to ICC, but they will not allow their person to go to ICC.
Yeah.
Because the municipal laws do not allow that. So that, to me, that was a political statement. And if we are going to postpone elections in Kenya, it must be a local decision. It must be a Kenyan decision.
All right, and this has gone to the level of parliament, and once, of course, it sails through, then it becomes law and we do not have an election. Do you foresee a scenario that would culminate?
Allow me, first of all, to agree entirely with what Farah has said.
Okay.
He is very articulate and eloquent, and the eloquence with which he has presented that whole scenario will play out in the due course of time. And I can tell you that the only bit is perhaps towards the end. Let me say this. One is that the handshake did not hinder in any way the big four. If you look at the number of housing units that have been already occupied in Nairobi, you have 1,370 that were occupied last month.
Yeah.
Here in Park Road.
In Park Road.
And you could tell that it is the right thing to do because of, you can tell with the demand, they were just snapped. The number of houses that are being done in Chaulimoyo, in Mombasa, in all those places are many, and I can tell you that Starehe and Chaulimoyo 8,000 units are on the way, Bodeni 605, in Mombasa 1,850, Kitui 599, and the list continues.
Timeline.
So it's not timelines. Yes, these are not things to be done and you go home with them.
Okay.
There are things to be done, and the next government must carry on with it.
Okay.
Remember also, the big four is part of Vision 2030. Vision 2030 was not done by Uhuru, it was done by Kibaki.
Right.
And even the president, the coming government will still be at it, even the next one for 2027. It's a question of what do you want to chip out of it and run away with, heading the same direction. And that's what good governments do. Okay. So I want to persuade my colleagues who think that they can actually badmouth the handshake and say that it actually made it easy for us to move in that direction. Let me also say that without doubt, if you're looking at the Mount Kenya, do not think that there was disorder in Mount Kenya. It is the noise that was made by UDA for 4 years. Right. That made people look like this sign. It's very easy for you to go and tell ni kama mama nyumbani. Unaona hii shida iko hapa, mzee. Shida iko hapa, mzee. By the time mzee wakes up, he may want to wait until towards the end of the term, and you all hear us and say, yeah, na baba kweli alikuwa mbaya. Nani alikuwa analipa school fees? You know, it eventually dawns on the kids that the mother was actually inciting the children.
But why would you allow them to do that?
And you actually, as a good father, you don't want to go into that line.
Okay.
Continue providing. What do you want eventually is the kids to grow up. They will realize what you have done for them, and you have your life to live. So this is the kind of scenario that you are seeing in Mount Kenya region. And I want to persuade my colleague here that do not be deceived. Let me tell you, and when we tell you we know what we are doing and we know what to do, we do. The Mount Kenya people will never want to vote for a person whom they feel threatened by, one way or another. Okay. And the narrative that has been sold in Mount Kenya by the UDA was a bad one, because it was for us to hit our leaders. And again, without their knowing, and Farah has also gone to the beat, it's been, William will have to work very hard to prove that what he has, he earned it legitimately. And I'm not saying it is illegitimate, but the propaganda that he was pushing in the Mount Kenya region,
propagated by his foot soldiers of Mount Kenya region.
No, this is a bit. In fact, you are confirming what I wanted to say. Okay. That he took an agenda to Mount Kenya that people have been abandoned, forgotten by their president. Okay. But he paid very little attention to the counter narrative that this is the epitome of corruption. This is the danger of 2007. It may not look like it is anything, but it's in the subconscious mind of people. And it will play out when you now tell them, go and vote.
Alice Wahome is going to make an about turn. Moses Kuria will make an about turn.
They don't need to. They don't need to. In fact, Farah, they do not need to make an about turn. What people do is abandon you. Okay. You would be left kwa mataa peke yako, and by the time, Nitimama told me, make sure that at any given time you are not running after your voters, because they will not allow you to come to the front. Okay. So it is them to read the signs of time, but they do not have to. And you remember that following that you are seeing there, it's not going to just be following that team. And that's why I'm saying, and he has acknowledged, in 3 weeks, 3 weeks, you cannot outdo my narrative for 4 years in 3 weeks, and I then continue saying I have a following. In 3 weeks, 50% of Mount Kenya people left UDA.
It would be unfair to say that UDA has joined this narrative in Kiamba for 4 years, Muhesh.
Allow me to say it because I am saying it. It could be unfair to your ears, but it is me saying it, and I'm telling you, you know what to do.
All right.
And 50% of Mount Kenya is 4 million votes. Remove them from Uhuru Ruto block. Leave Uhuru or Ruto with 4 million. We defeated Raila with 1.4 million votes. Already, anybody in that camp is headed to the opposition. We did not create an opposition slot because BBI is still stuck. So you actually headed to where Musalia is, outside the code.
So how then
let me just finish my thing. I want you to tell me, come 2022 elections and Kikuyus realize that you actually heading them to the opposition benches, how many of them will be left with you? I want to tell you, Uhuru will tell us and has told us where not to go,
but will not.
He will not make a mistake of telling us where to go. It is upon us readers and the people of the mountain to now decide where to go.
And now the people of the mountain will require
unlike
a
Farah,
vote. Yes.
I am telling you, in that mix of Raila, Ruto, throw in Kalonzo, throw in Musalia. And finally, the role that is being played by Uhuru of telling us where not to go and leaving us to decide where to go is actually the similar role that I believe Raila Amolo Odinga is likely to play in the coming days. It is not that the whole of the Luo Nyanza is seen in a manner that of threatening, like Farah has presented it. But unfortunately, the family of Jaramogi, and I say very unfortunate because it has been very far from the truth, they have been depicted in Mount Kenya region as those who will actually come and take away that which you have. The family itself did not endear itself to the community also during their campaigning because they also played very hardball, something that is very difficult to undo in 1 year. But remember, Uhuru never told us to go to Raila.
He has never.
He never said that.
Okay,
we has been, I finish with this sentence and you can even allow me to go. I will not say speak again.
We have to come back to.
He has had an alliance with the Raila. An alliance that has helped this country to move on. It is William Ruto and the UDA brigade that went and lied to the mountain that the candidate for the mountain 2022 for Uhuru is Raila Amolo Odinga. For the reason that for Ruto, it's very easy for him to campaign against Raila in Mount Kenya region. So he picked a candidate, campaigned against that candidate for 4 years. Now he can have come home to roast.
Wait a minute, Mheshimiwa. We're coming back to you. We are taking a quick break and we're coming back. Not to you. We'll come back to Farah and then we come back to you.
How is you coming back to me?
No. We cannot come back to you. After this break, we'll get to understand some more on the matrix of politics that is in the Mount Kenya region and generally how they are going to entice the rest of the regions that is in the country to buy into their narrative. Welcome back to the broadcast. Still with us, Farah Maalim, who was the former Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly. Jeremiah Kioni, he is the Member of Parliament Ndaragwa, but he insists that he should be called the leader from the Kikuyu community. I am interested to understand. You have not insisted.
I have not insisted. I have never insisted.
They have just decided.
The leadership in Kikuyu comes. You do not appoint yourself.
So automatically
so
you
if you don't want to see me as one, I cannot complain.
But then at this juncture, do you agree that you're one?
I have no problem if anybody thinks so. I have been there long enough. I can see beyond what many people are seeing, and that's why I'm telling you we know what to do.
Okay. All right. Honorable Joash Maangi, Deputy Governor, Kisii County. Honorable Farah Maalim, let's come back to that point. And I don't know why Mheshimiwa Kioni decided not to answer that question, but then again, I'll throw it to you on the postponement of the elections. But back to his analogy on the Mount Kenya region. And one then would want to ask, well, after Mount Kenya speaks in one, voice, and they say, this is our person, how then do they get the other votes or the other, parts of the country, the other regions to buy into their narrative?
You see, people, as Kioni put it, there is an extreme love for a leader or an incoming leader. There are also extreme fears of certain leaders. So more than anything else, the fears are the ones which define the position or the directions most electoral take. When Uhuru is running for the presidency, of course, the whole of the mountain region and the rest of it are excited and they're happy. When Kibaki runs, the same thing. But when Kibaki is running or Uhuru is running, people of Northeastern Province, Coast Province, Western, Nyanza, Ukambani will look at, okay, assume a worst case scenario. How bad can it get? And then they will say, no, Kibaki is a gentleman. We don't think they're going to, they're not attack our private properties. They're not going to give us, they will not try and change the law in such a haphazard manner. So that is also a narrative that feeds into the decision on the manner in which politics itself is going to be demonstrated and how people will vote. There is fear. a serious fear of the two persons. You know, for Ruto, for example, there's an assumption that if Ruto comes to power, being a very close friend of Museveni, for your information, he might want to change the constitution and stay in there as the president for life. And that is one thing.
Oh, yeah?
And it is
Yes,
reality.
yes.
He understands the tactics.
And it's actually
Yes,
a fear in Mount
yes.
Kenya, by the way,
Okay.
which
Yes,
is unspoken.
All right.
Yeah, that is one thing. Secondly, he has ignited a class war. And that class war itself is when you try to appeal to the poorest of the poor and tell them, I'm going to redistribute the farms, I'm going to do these things. It is a very, very dangerous thing, but difficult to sell within the mainstream Kikuyu community, because these are people who believe in hard work and their sweat to earn the pieces of plots and the rest, which they don't want anything free. They don't like freebies, but they want to be facilitated for them to be able to empower themselves. Now, the other thing that essentially comes in is that the moment you take away those few things, and by the way, for your information, my dear daughter, for your information, 85% of the members of parliament today are not coming back.
True.
Okay.
So you can rest assured,
Maybe a little higher.
all those people running around in
Will
the
come
mountain
back.
region with Ruto are not coming back. Take it from me. 90% of them are not coming back. It's happened always, and it will happen again. So the fact of the matter, and Uhuru, in his wisdom, by the way, you underrate Uhuru's brilliance and wisdom, and you do it at your own cost.
True.
He's there with Raila. He's there basically everywhere with everybody else. But he has never gone to Kiamba to go and campaign for the Jubilee candidate.
Yeah.
The idea, in my opinion, is to say, let this thing take its own course, and eventually maybe come to Raila and tell him, my friend, you can see how bad it's going to be if we try and push you into these things. And maybe tell them, go and find out your own alliance. I'm not going to tell you, take Kalonzo as your coalition presidential candidate or Mudavadi or the rest of it, but go there and do your own calculations. Now, the other thing when it comes to Raila, I have voted for Raila myself for all the elections that were there and his father, except one when I voted for Nyachai. And I can assure you one thing. You can have an agreement with Raila today, and even if it's going to be on a piece of paper with signatures and witnesses and the rest of it, well, then you never know again. He will. That agreement never works, and Kenyans know that also. There are people who supported this guy at least twice in every case, Mudavadi, Kalonzo, Wetangula, Ruto. Everybody supported him one time or the other. And those, what you call pacts that were there, the handshakes that were there between him and those guys were never respected, including the little money that essentially, we actually went to Serena Hotel and signed it. The document is there. The signature with Kalonzo Musyoka, where some two eminent legal personalities in this country were witnesses to, is there. That it doesn't matter whether he wins or he loses, or whether it's going to be a rigging or it's going to be a fair loss, the next election he's going to support Kalonzo for the president. It's there, and that document is going to become public soon. So if you can't respect, if somebody cannot hold his own, what do you call, commitment, if the oath, basically it's like an oath, and you still come up with another story, how do you trust such a person in the country? These are the kind of things that are playing around in the minds of people like me and people like the mountain region and everybody. So, in a sense, and as for Ruto, let me tell you one thing. He can have all the support and all what you call the relations in mountain region. You only play that Kiamba thing twice or three times, that thing is going to change in a volte-face, 180 degrees, because those things are there. And here you are, you are unable to explain the source of your own wealth, and you think you're going to be exempted and call everybody else, the leaders from the mountain region, you have been abandoned, and try and create a class war in there. And you want to explain to people all this money that you're flashing around. I'm told you spent about 300 million Kenya shillings on Kiamba. You made it by selling chicken in the markets of Eldoret and doing a commission on Amaco. No, hogwash. Everybody knows that.
The legal processes to of course confirm that, which is something that has not been done so far, and therefore, well, he stands innocent.
Look. Let me just finish. Make it brief, sir. Let me just finish. There are a lot of things. There's the Muteshi case on the piece of land, the 100 acres, where the matter had to go to court. There are a lot of things. There are a hell of a lot of things. I can assure you, if Ruto stands tomorrow, although we are pastoralists and they are pastoralists, he's going to get 0 from the votes. I can see Duarte saying that you cannot stop Ruto. Ruto is getting nothing, and anybody associated with him from that region will go because of the respect that community has for private wealth and hard work, and the fear that will all go down to the pockets of people who have not worked hard for it, and Ruto personifies that.
It is interesting how the political gurus argue the way they are arguing, and that is to counter the Ruto narrative. But interestingly, you realize that again, some gurus equally are on the ground in the name of we're trying to counter Ruto's narrative, we're going to fight him. I mean, Kalonzo himself, who is the party leader of Honorable Farah Maalim, argues that this is me, and I'm going to counter Deputy President William Ruto. Why should it be about a battle against him as opposed to a battle of making Kenya better?
The answer is very simple. He's favorite. It's in terms of rating.
He's a darling of the people, you think?
Exactly. That's
He
why
has a lot of money. He has a lot of money.
That's why everybody's fighting him. Malum, it's my time now.
Okay.
Okay, Mangi. Sorry, Governor.
It's okay. Now, Kioni makes a very interesting argument. He says that Ruto will get 50% of the mountain vote and get 100% of the Kalenjin vote. And to him, that will make him an opposition leader. Mm-hmm. So the assumption he's making here is that Raila Amolo Odinga will retain his 7.5 million votes. Okay. And therefore, Ruto will get 4 million votes. Now, and then he goes ahead and says the person to watch is Musalia or Kalonzo. Mm-hmm. Then where would Kalonzo and Musalia get their votes from? If Daira retains his 7.5 million and the Ruto gets 50% of the mountain and the entire Kalenjin land. It is very interesting, but with due respect, my brother, it's very wrong to assume that Ruto will not get votes from
mountain region.
No. Mountain has said he get 50%. But what about Kisii? What about Mombasa? What about Northeastern, even though Maalim says no? What about Western? So if you are giving him 50% from the mountain and 100% from Kalenjin land, then you are putting him ahead of everybody. Because then when you will get a few punches from these other regions, then it's ahead of everybody. Mm-hmm. And that's why you see everybody is fighting Ruto. Kalonzo Musyoka, instead of campaigning that this is what I would like to do for Kenyans and therefore elect me, he says, I'm going to beat Ruto. So according to him, the opponent disease is Ruto. Mm. If you listen to all these people, including Musalia Mudavadi, a gentleman of presidential politics, the people, the target is Ruto. Okay? Now that's why I say, at the end of the day, as it is today, the next president of this country is either Ruto or Raila. Okay. And that's what he has said by saying if Raila retains his 7.5 million, then it becomes a difficult person to beat. Mm. If Ruto gets 4 million votes from the mountain, and then he also gets the entire 2 million votes from Kalenjin land, that is 6 million. Are you telling me that he cannot get 1 or 2 million votes from the rest of Kenya? It means that we are actually accepting that Ruto is the man to beat, but we don't want to.
How do you entice the rest of the other regions in the country and the Mudavadi factor that is evidently here?
Let me say this. My assignment today is not to entice anybody. I am interested with the soul of the Mount Kenya.
Exactly, it is. I mean, if we're talking about the vote, then it is necessary to entice the other Kenyans.
It's the soul of the community.
All right.
Because they have been talked to in a very negative way for the last 4 years.
Okay.
You cannot come and incite our young people against the others. And anybody who has something must have taken it from you. That is a mistake that was made by UDA. We will not forgive him for it. I cautioned them when I was in this studio. Mm-hmm. I begged Ikonya on Citizen, Ichungwa, please move away from this narrative. Mm-hmm. Please move away from this narrative. This narrative will cost you your political career.
Okay.
We have gone through that with Mogeki. Don't dare bring it back to us. Do not dare bring it back to us. And that's why I'm telling you, we know what to do.
But again, the
My
mountain does
colleague-
not live in isolation. Okay.
And it lives as a community, just like your family does not live in isolation, but
Right.
you need your family for the nation. There is everywhere where we all come from.
All right.
You start with the family, you're in a community, and then you come into the nation. These are realities.
You say the family
Yes.
aspect has been fixed, and therefore you know very well that you have fixed your card
You
by
are
the time it's
forgetting. You're
2022.
forgetting. That was just an analogy.
All right.
Don't take any strong statement.
But you're
from
getting
that.
us
I'm
confused,
just trying to say,
Mheshimiwa.
yes, because
Okay.
you are not following me right
We
now. I
are.
can see he completely got confused.
No, he did.
I said this. Let me tell you. Let me
All
say.
right.
I said this. In Kiambaa, in 3 weeks,
You were able to
we
get your
took
50
away
back.
50%. Today, 50% is there.
You will take it back.
In another year, there will be 0.50% there. There will be 0% that side. I hope now you can follow my argument.
That is
Before Farah comes
That has
aboard,
been well
let me-
received.
yeah,
Yes.
but you are
That's
saying that I left William with 4 million. You know, I don't know where I even
The
said
calculations that you made.
No, no, no. I
Okay,
haven't.
right.
I have.
Okay.
I've written
All
everything
right.
I've said. Those are
Proceed.
things you had elsewhere,
Proceed.
and you
Ah,
don't assign them to me.
Mheshimiwa, it's on record.
Which record?
Okay.
The other thing is this. Why is it that everybody says they want to beat Ruto? In my opinion, he's the most feared. Not in terms of popularity, but in terms of if he ascends to power, what kind of damage can he occasion to people?
Yeah.
But let me go
You
this.
trusted him with the deputy presidency.
We didn't.
You didn't.
Yes, you have, again, you
He's the
people need to be
deputy.
taken through a very
He is
heavy
the deputy president.
political lesson here.
You were in Jubilee
and you
party.
you are the
Okay,
only one,
proceed.
I'm the only one you are really
Proceed.
taking my time from. And then eventually you say that I've said many
All right,
things. But you
proceed.
see, you have been told that you are the deputy to Uhuru, and then your brigade says the first assignment they are going to do after taking power is to jail Uhuru. And look at what Uhuru did to even get you out of ICC.
Okay.
I mean, you think these statements are idle? People are listening to them in Mount Kenya.
But did
and
he say that really?
It was said Bangeno. When
The
your
foot
foot soldiers
soldiers
said,
proceeded, yeah.
and they said in your presence, and you do not counter them, even if you counter in this country, we now know how narratives are done. I am telling you again, these are not idle statements, and they don't fall on ears that are not listening. They go into the subconscious mind. But remember this, I want to say 3 things. One, the first term of Jubilee and of Uhuru and Ruto, it was more scandalous during the first term. When Tanga left and went to campaign in Mount Kenya against Uhuru, we have fewer scandals in the second term. Take that point home. 2, we have said that there is a 10-10 thing that was, now they have run away from it. They have completely run away from it. But let me remind you, 2013, when we were running with Musalia Mudavadi, there was a document that was signed by Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and William Ruto assigning power to Musalia.
Yeah.
So if Ruto was to say that Uhuru had done, he even signed it to Musalia. Forget about anything else. He even has, there's a document signed, just like the ones that we are saying. So I think I am advising them to run away from that debate of trying to say that one there to that. Farah has said something else.
Which debate?
That one of 10-10, we know what to do. But let me say this.
Miyango.
Farah has said something else also.
Okay.
Very crucial that people have not understood. In the whole of this country, the person people fear most that will extend his power in office, in line with Museveni's line,
It's the DP.
people fear him. When you can mobilize people against the other, it means you can mobilize people, blind them, and get them to push you through that thing. Let me tell you that we are not saying that William will eventually have 0 votes per se in Mount Kenya, but the number of votes that will be left there will be such that it is a kind of scenario that we had in 2002. You have a bloc that is so radicalized that is with you, but it's not enough to prepare you to power. The only thing that Kikuyus do immediately after that, they quickly abandon you and move on. Remember, there is something called criminal liability and political liability. This is not criminal liability. And Kenyans have moved to where they actually assign you with political liability on issues. And I mentioned this in Ndaragwa yesterday, 2 days ago, and I told them, look at the people following, they were with Musalia, because I had gone to receive him back home. Ndaragwa is my county. You know, Musalia was going to visit my county, and I know he's a friend of mine. So I went there and received him. And I actually noticed something. The 10 members of parliament who were following Musalia, none of them is being followed by a police.
Yeah.
Why is it that the 6 members of parliament who are following it, all of them have court cases? And when I say this, I know you want to take away my time.
I will take away your time. But to Farah Maalim, who's your...
I want to go to this issue of postponement of elections.
Allow us to have Farah come in first, and then
which
you come
you
back
want to assign to me, and I haven't said
you decided to run away from it. Yes.
We have 27 constituencies that we protected under the constitution with Farah.
Yes.
Because that time, that's the political decision we make. And we said, you cannot take away from people which you have already given to them. It's like in your employment, you are used to a given lifetime because of the salary you are given.
Yes, and
the time for reviewing your salary comes, and you want to review it. The law across the world prohibits your employer from reviewing your terms downwards.
That's correct.
These 27 constituencies are used to a member of parliament. They are used to bursaries. They are used to walking to his office. You want to scrap the constituencies. We take matatus to that place. That you have to start, let it sink in your mind what it means to these people, Kenyans, in 27 constituencies across 16 counties. 10% of the constituencies, 30% of the counties.
Okay.
This is not a thing to brush over. Think through it.
All right, Honorable Farah Maalim, and true to it, well, there's that fear of extension of power, that is the likes of Deputy President William Ruto. The immediate fear right now is that of President Uhuru Kenyatta. I know that he has declared that he has no interest of, extending, his term in any way. But then again, we've also had proponents speaking of a scenario where, he's too young to exit the stage. Maybe that could have informed the conversation of a review on the Constitution, amendment of the Constitution. That got many Kenyans a little bit worried. This conversation,
That's exactly what Kioni is saying. The fear, the most fundamental, the gravest fear people have of somebody like Ruto is that he's going to remove the term limits. And that he's going to be their president for life.
Yeah.
Now, for Uhuru, for anybody like Atwoli to suggest that let's extend on the term of Uhuru because he's a young man, is a very careless and a very dangerous direction in trying to move, where he's trying to move our politics. And I don't think that's going to fly.
Totally agree.
That's not going to fly. So the thing that Kioni talks about right now, which is a little bit, look, all the 3 people you have right now on the panel are people with a legal background. And there was the issue of delimit again the constituencies in accordance with the latest census. There is another provision in the Constitution that says that you cannot hold, you can't do that 1 year to the elections. We had initially, as Kioni said, we said these people are already used to that. It's called a legitimate expectation. They expected these constituencies, and let's save them, but let's increase by another 70 constituencies, and now we have the matter in court. I think that thing is something that the next government needs to work on as soon as possible. There are a number of good things. For example, the fact that government has got to come from parliament. I think we need that more urgently than anything else. Because right now, I don't even know half the cabinet ministers we have in the country here. And they're not responsible to anybody. It's an authority without responsibility. Now, do we postpone the parliament's life to accommodate side things? No, I don't think so. But I think we can do that even after the election. There's need to work on that after the election. And a number of other very important things that needs to be dealt with. But the one thing I am going to tell you, and you can take that to the bank, we can come back to this place 1.5 years from today, is that given the other options, let alone 50%, I would be surprised if Ruto gets even 5% of the mountain region in terms of serious votes. Given a situation in which the options are more than they are now. And the options, I'm talking about the next president of this country, look no further than Kalonzo and Mudavadi. Take it from me. Look no further than Kalonzo and Mudavadi. And I'll explain to you why. Look, there was a few years back an election in Mali. And there's a guy called Celine, whom I had met myself. He's a Fulani himself. He got 46% of the votes. The current president, just the immediate last president who was there for 10 years, had 17% of the votes. But the law required a minimum of 50% for somebody +1 for somebody to get to assent to that. There was a second run. The assumption is that the person who had 46% will end up getting the additional 4% and a little bit more through that coalitions and come back as a president. Can you believe it? The man who had 17% is the one who won, and that guy came actually down to 45%.
Okay.
Because of the fear. He's a Fulani himself. The Fulani is a big tribe in that place. But because of the fear, everybody took to this other person. So Ruto might project right now as the most serious candidate we have in the field. But even if you make Kioni the candidate against him, or myself against him, or Kalonzo becomes against him, or Mudavadi, I can assure you Kenyans will troop to Kalonzo, they will troop to Mudavadi. One of them becomes the presidential candidate through some kind of a coalition. And that's going to be the next president of the country. Okay. He can keep whatever votes he's going to keep, and it can only reduce. It cannot increase, because fear is the biggest, determinant of somebody's character. You see, you have aspirations, you have love, you have hopes. Those hopes are good, yes, but fear is more profound. To run away from your fears, to be as long distance as there can be between you and your fears, is the biggest, determinant of a human character.
All right, so much feedback coming our way, but again, time would not allow us. So the Mudavadi factor, what will it take to elevate them to that level where they're going to challenge every other contender that appears to be the biggest contender, of course, in the likes of Deputy President William Ruto and Right Honorable Raila Odinga? What will it take to dislodge them from this?
Linda, you know, Farah Maalim says that the next president of Kenya is either Mudavadi or Kalonzo Musyoka.
And he also mentioned me.
Oh,
Yes.
did he?
I think this one is fond of lying. Yeah?
Now this one.
No, he mentioned me and mentioned himself.
Can I just finish one thing?
Remember, in 2013, Kioni was running Merit Musale Mudavadi.
Yes.
Can I say one thing? Can I say one thing before Mangi comes in?
That should be your parting shot, yes.
That 7 million votes or 7-point-something million votes of Raila last time, I assure you, and I can bet $1 million will come down to less than 2 million. Because those are the votes of Mudavadi, those are the votes of Farah Maalim, those are the votes of Kioni, those were the votes of not Kioni this time, but those are the votes of Kalonzo Musyoka, Wetangula. We all brought him our votes. Now, come the next election, he will go down. Even the Kisii, the majority of the Kisii are not going to vote for him. Watch it. That 7.5 million votes, it was there at that time because Uhuru was the candidate against him.
Okay.
And Kenyans had gotten tired of 10 years of Kibaki, even if Kibaki did such a fantastic job, but because of one community and another 10 years of the same community. And that's why they were voting for Raila, because they wanted that to come to an end. Today, they are more wise than
Farah Maalim. Let's allow Maangi.
Now, Linda, you know, what he's saying is correct. He's saying that the 7.5 million may not be there for Raila. And that is why I go back to what Kioni said, that if the 7.5 million is not there for Raila, it's spread between Kalonzo, Musalia, and all these other people. So but the 2 million from Kalenjin is intact for Ruto. If Ruto gets 50% from the mountain, and then he gets from these other tribes, from other communities, small percent, then Ruto is the president. You think
Gideon is not going to bring something for
I doubt.
For Mudavadi?
I doubt. But you know, you asked me a good question about Kalonzo.
As we close.
Yes, Kalonzo and Mudavadi.
Yeah.
You know, according to Farah Maalim, the next president is either Kalonzo Musyoka or Musalia Mudavadi. According to me, my crystal ball tells me very clearly that the next president of this country is either William Ruto or Raila Odinga.
Okay.
It's one of those two. Now, why do people keep on demonizing Ruto? I tell you this. You know, it is for some the rubric that once you want to kill a dog, you must give it a bad name.
I thought you'd be protecting Raila more than Ruto. That's your party leader. Why are you betraying yourself so easily?
Right, yeah. I thought you said it's okay. You said it's okay for him to create a balance. Yes. We have to close Mheshimiwa. Yes.
Now, people, when you want to kill a dog, you give it a bad name, then say, this dog is so bad, we must kill it. That's exactly what these people are doing. They're giving Ruto a very bad name because they are so scared of him and they want to kill him politically. That's why they give him a bad name. But if you specifically went down and asked them, other than these imagined crimes, which they keep on saying that he has committed, but you know there's the court of law. Kioni has correctly said that while there may be no criminal liability to him, there may be political liability. Now, politics is local.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, when 2022 comes and people will be voting, each community is going to go back to their home and vote the person they think will protect them.
All right.
Now,
technically, what he was saying, Mount Kenya will go back home.
Mount Kenya will go back home. And if the option, as they have said, it's not me, they are the ones who have said, Maalim has said, if the option is between Raila Amolo Odinga and Ruto, then Ruto wins hands down. Hands down.
Okay.
Now, when he says that, we can stop and leave it there, because you and me know that Sarah Mudavadi needs a miracle to be a top contender.
Okay.
Kalonzo Musyoka needs a miracle to be a top contender.
Asante sana. Honorable Joash Maangi, Deputy Governor, Kisii County.
Needed a miracle.
Honorable Jeremiah Kioni.
Yes. Kibaki needed a miracle to be a serious contender after 1997.
Yes,
and Raila said Kibaki Tosha at some point.
So I said it. I said it again.
We have to close.
That, do you want me to do my parting shot?
No, apparently.
No, I have to say this.
Sadly, Mheshimiwa, no.
That you cannot dismiss the two individuals from the contention of this country. And I want to agree with Farah.
Maalim.
That thing is between Musalia and Kalonzo.
Okay, we wait and see. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Honorable Farah Maalim, once again, Asante Sana, former Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, and also Deputy Chair, that is in Wiper. Asante Sana for the great insights. We close it at that. We are getting to a different conversation altogether after this break. That is in regards to matters health. Don't go anywhere.